Hello, I'm Alexey Nikolsky and welcome to my channel How Music Expresses. Today we're going to explore a topic that has surprisingly not received the attention it deserves, and that is the expressive nature of pitch. Everyone knows that pitch in music refers to how high or how low a sound appears, but did you know that just one pitch alone can charge a sound with a certain expression? To see this, let's compare pitched and unpitched sounds. Pitch is our perception of the frequency of a tone that vibrates regularly. The opposite of it is a sound that vibrates irregularly. We perceive such a sound as noise. However, noise can also be an integral part of music. There are many percussion instruments that generate noise of a specific character suitable for a particular expression. The nature of such expression is onomatopoeic. Let's take the snare drum, for instance. Its sound has a sharp and decisive character that suits military, daring, and energetic music. The expression of boldness and force corresponds to the way the snare drum is played. It is hit by sticks, and hitting implies aggression. Quite different is the expression of maraca. The maraca has a shaky, jiggly, and sandy sound that is delicate yet lively, but it can also be nervous and fidgety. Much of such an impression comes from the way maracas are played, by shaking them. And shaking implies instability and weakness associated with fear and alertness. So, as you see, each type of musical noise carries its own unique expression, and the expressive nature of it is onomatopoeic. In contrast to noise, pitch, regardless of the way the sound is produced, affects all sounds in a more uniform way. That's why a bowed instrument can play music that was originally composed for a plucking instrument, and vice versa, without modifying the expression of that music. So a lullaby remains a lullaby no matter which instrument plays it. In fact, throughout the history of Western classical music, harpsichord, organ, piano, and clavichord have all been used interchangeably. Although they are all keyboard instruments, each belongs to a different family of instruments, where each family is characterized by its own methods of tone production. So, what is the inherent expression of pitch? Before answering this question, it's important to recognize that not all pitches are qualified in the same way. Pitch can appear indefinite, that is, hard to accurately reproduce with the voice. And here I am not talking about a kind of hearing impairment. I am talking about those music cultures that favor musical instruments of unclear pitch, or cultivate a singing style that doesn't mark the pitch increments well enough. There are three most common situations where a music culture can use indefinite pitch. To begin with, some musical instruments generate sounds that unveil themselves in a number of phases, where each phase is distinguished by changes in the tonal qualities of a sound. A good example of this is a gong. Although a gong appears to have a pitched sound, it's nearly impossible to match its pitch with the voice. Not only the changing of the clanging of gong is too broad in frequency, it is hardly reducible to a specific pitch. The sound of the gong goes through a gradual yet pronounced modulation as it fades out. The second most common situation is when a musical instrument vibrates in multiple oscillation modes, each with its own resonance, adding to the complexity of the pitch and making it difficult to discriminate. For example, we might notice that one triangle sounds higher than another, but can't tell by exactly how much. Yet another instance is where the entire melody is made up of gradually sliding pitches. There are a few musical traditions that systematically use such melodies. Ethnomusicologists call them ecmelic. An example of this is the Nenets indigenous traditional music. Perhaps the most important thing about indefinite pitch is that it precludes the development of harmony. This is because the ongoing pitch modulations make any standardization of pitch intervals very difficult, if not impossible. The same goes for our two previous examples. When we combine the sound of a few gongs or a few triangles, such sounds do not generate harmony. Music cultures that have harmony, such as Western music, use definite pitch to maintain consistent pitch values, meaning that changes in pitch are discrete and are used repeatedly throughout the composition. The clearest demonstration of a repetitive use of the same pitch value is the monotone tradition of Buddhist music. The strict monotony in this music has semantic significance. It reflects monks' experience of unity with the universe. Expression through reused pitch values is unique to music and doesn't exist in other forms of auditory communication, such as language. Although languages do use changes in pitch to communicate syntactic or semantic information, the rise and fall of the voice in speech does not involve specific pitch values. What matters for speech is only the switching between ascending, descending, and flat intonations. The exact size of the pitch change doesn't matter, and as such, specific pitch values are simply non-existent. In this way, pitch in language resembles pitch in ecmelic music, except that linguistic intonations serve a different purpose. They are mainly used to distinguish between different types of sentences, such as statements, questions, exclamations, and commands, and in order to convey emotional disposition of the speaker, such as worry or surprise. Even tone languages that are often considered to have a melodic line formed by the rise and fall of their lexical tones are actually different from melodies in music with definite pitch. Thus, Thai language has 5 lexical tones that are characterized by the rise or fall or sustaining the same pitch level. However, in tone languages, the extent of changes in pitch is arbitrary, and each new instance of the same lexical tone hardly ever returns back to the same pitch level. It can be said that in Thai speech, pitch levels are not coordinated, whereas in Thai traditional music, pitch levels are coordinated.
ถ้าใครสนใจก็ติดต่อผมได้นะครับผมพูดเล่นครับพูดเล่นตอนนี้ผมสอนภาษาไทยที่ป้าเสือเซอร์ต้า
As you can hear, the so to speak melody of tone languages does not reuse the same pitch values and therefore cannot be notated like music. Lexical tones in Thai language behave very differently from musical tones in traditional Thai melodies that move by distinct pitch increments and reuse the same pitch values. In this example, the melody started and ended on the same pitch value, and pitch changes were distinct. Majority of modern music cultures today, like the one we just heard, are based on definite pitch. So, to summarize, musical sound can be either pitched or unpitched, and pitched sounds, in turn, can be either definite or indefinite. Musical instruments that generate indefinite pitch, like the gong or the triangle, are hardly reproducible by singing or whistling. And ecmelic vocal music can only be roughly reproduced by another person, since ecmelic singers are simply not interested in the exact pitch values and consider a song to be the same even when they sing a particular tone of it higher or lower than they sang it earlier. In contrast, music traditions that are based on definite pitch can reproduce the same melody from a different pitch in exactly the same way, keeping its pitch values the same. This is called transposing a tune. Another point to remember is that a tune originally created for one voice or for one musical instrument can be reproduced by another voice or another musical instrument without changing the character of the music. In contrast to the onomatopoeic diversity of unpitched musical instruments, such as drums, maracas, or guiros, definite pitch possesses a uniform expression. What makes definite pitch so interesting is its unusual quality of making the sound euphonic, so that people find it enjoyable and wish to keep listening to it. Because of this euphonic quality of definite pitch, people prefer musical sounds to other types of sound, including speech. And the capacity of definite pitch to entertain underlies the expression of all other musical instruments. Even negative emotions, such as grief, melancholy, anxiety, or fear, when expressed through definite pitch, remain pleasurable and cathartic and invoke aesthetic appreciation. No wonder why musical sadness is often described as sweet. In fact, sad music has been experimentally shown to induce pleasant emotions. Every definite pitch imparts a sense of pleasure and entertainment, and this is what separates musical communication from verbal communication. The easiest way to demonstrate this is by comparing the expression of an onomatopoeic word when spoken and when sung. Let's take the words hiss and pop. When spoken, hiss implies a negative connotation of annoyance or disapproval. Think of such things as a hissing snake, a deflating tire, a leaking pipe, all negatively connotated. In contrary, pop conveys a positive sense of curiosity or a pleasant surprise. Think of balloons, soap bubbles, champagne bottles, soda cans, or firecrackers. However, when sung, both hiss and pop lose their symbolic distinction and both become equally enjoyable. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Pop, pop, pop. Singing a word strips it off of its onomatopoeic expression, substituting it with a musical expression. And this is how definite pitch works. Euphonic impression is not the only effect of definite pitch. Euphony of definite pitch can take different forms depending on the register to which a musical tone belongs. A musical register is a frequency range within which musical tones share the same tonal qualities. For instance, a register can be characterized as dark and thick or light and thin. Every musical instrument and vocal has a limited range of tones that breaks into a few registers, and each register is recognized by its own character that is suitable or unsuitable for a specific expression. Low-pitched sounds are often associated with something important, powerful, or scary, like oh, oh, oh. While high-pitched sounds are typically associated with things that are cute, vulnerable, or intense. Oh, oh, oh. Such associations have an evolutionary origin. Bigger animals are heavier and usually make lower-pitched sounds, in contrast to smaller animals that usually constitute prey or are cubs. The selective pressure for distant detection of larger predators is probably the reason for the instinctive connection of size to pitch, observed even in human newborns. They were experimentally shown to make accurate judgments of the size of a sound source based solely upon its sound. This might explain our default perception of low sounds as important and powerful and high sounds as cute and vulnerable. The expressive character of each register makes the euphonic impression of a pitched sound more specific. For music communication, contrast in pitch is more effective than contrast in any other aspects of expression, such as rhythm, meter, and dynamics. However, there are musical traditions that do not use pitch to express ideas. Take the Japanese tradition of taiko drumming bands, for example. Taiko music expresses primarily through rhythm. Let's listen to 1 minute of this music and see how many changes there are in the way performers are grouped together to convey various expressions. Look for which musical instruments are playing with which others, and where in the music such changes coincide with the changes in character. Music started with all players collectively performing two kinds of rhythm: a heavy energetic roll and a series of punching accents followed by a shout out. This ardent display of joint power was overtaken by the soloist, who stepped forward with forceful, continuous, syncopated cross rhythms, defying the regular rhythms of the entire band. This was perhaps the single most salient change in the entire music. Now, let's listen to 1 minute of pitch-based music that starts with a similar fiery character. This is the Allegro con fuoco from Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. The music opened with a sudden explosion that burst into an energetic fury that was repeated. Then, as suddenly, the music became fearful and anxious, and kept alternating with a threatening passage that sounded like a gust of violent wind. Then, this agitation and foreboding feeling grew stronger, but swiftly transformed into optimistic anticipation. The two initial explosions returned, but this time they led to a different outcome. Finally, the music became festive and jubilant. As you see, all in all, pitch-oriented music allows for a much greater number of changes, diversity of expressions, and more distinct characterization, and it is overall more memorable. If you hear the same excerpt by Tchaikovsky, you wouldn't take it for some other music. But you can easily mistake the music of one taiko band for another. Well, now you can see why the most common forms of music today use definite pitch. It makes music more expressive and memorable. It allows for longer and more diverse compositions, and it promotes creativity in musicians and appreciation of this creativity in listeners. Well, now we can conclude our journey into the expressive nature of pitch with 4 takeaways. 1. Music doesn't have to have pitch to be expressive. Pitchless or noisy musical sounds also have their own expressive qualities. This is how percussive instruments contribute to the expression of music. 2. Musical pitch can be definite, thus making it easy to differentiate between tones. Or it can be indefinite, making it hard to identify a tone. And it is definite pitch that makes a sound euphonic and enjoyable to listen to. In addition to the general effect of musical euphony, music can convey more specific information, which brings us to our third point. Different pitch registers support different expressions. A high register can suggest cuteness, vulnerability, or intensity of feeling, whereas a low register can evoke a sense of importance, power, aggression, or deep relaxation. Now, which of these associations gets engaged depends on the melodic, rhythmic, and dynamic features of the music. And finally, musical pitch enables music to tell stories. Changes in pitch create a greater variety of expressions, as you could hear in Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. Well, I hope that by now you have a better understanding of the inherent expressive power of pitch. In my next video, I'll cover yet another expressive aspect of pitch, melody. I'll show how combinations of different pitches make melody expressive in different ways. Thank you for joining me, and please share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video.